following program is classified G. It's suitable for all ages.
Tonight, we discuss the legal parameters for protests to take place within Sri Lanka. The right to protest has been a key point of contention in the past, given the amount of instances where it has been misused. Should the concept of public disobedience be re-evaluated in Sri Lanka for the betterment of all parties involved? How can the balance between the right to protest and carrying out law and order be struck during these times? What are the key provisions within the law that recognizes the role of the police to retain a peaceful state of affairs within a country? Welcome to Law and at Liberty, where we are keeping with the promise of bringing in a contemporary legal topic and breaking it down for our viewers. Now, the topic we are taking up today, a bit of a contentious one. We are going to talk about the right to protest within Sri Lanka. Now, divided opinions have been present about the right to protest within the public forum, specifically the extents, the places where there can be barriers drawn about to which extent can someone protest, what includes a protest. So we really need to get a proper breakdown of what exists within the law and what the moral spectrum of the public would also want to suggest. On that account, we have brought in an individual who has been within this field, who has been in our program multiple times as well, Dr. Prathiba Mahanamahewa, the rector of the Sri Pali campus, University of Colombo. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us once again.
Thank you.
Certainly, when contentious topics like this come up, we have to turn to you to get the understanding. As usual, what we do within this program is we give our viewers a breakdown of where we are taking the discussion so that it's clear for our viewers to follow the entire discussion. Firstly, we are going to talk a bit about the right to protest and the limitations that exist within the current law so that we all are clear about where this discussion is going to head. Secondly, we are going to talk a bit about the role of the police and the military, the paramilitary forces within a country. Third, the Prevention of Terrorism Act. And finally, the prospective offences or interim orders that court issues in order to prevent certain illegal activities from happening.
Hi, my name is Dasun Dias and I'm a medical student. My question is on the right to protest. What are the legal provisions for the right to protest and what are its limitations?
All right, let's get into the discussion straight away. Doctor, thank you for joining us once again. And thank you for coming to speak about this rather contentious topic these days. The first thing I would want to speak to you and maybe give our viewers also an elaboration of, as the law exists right now, what are the provisions to protest? And we can build on that and take the discussion forward. How do you enter the subject of right to protest in Sri Lanka?
Yes, now the time is quite correct to discuss this subject. Why? September 2nd week, the Geneva Human Rights Council meeting for their sessions. So a lot of organizations, human rights organizations, internal and international, have sent several petitions. Right. I heard nearly 150 petitions were there. Sri Lanka has restricted the right to protest, illegal arrest, and keep them under Prevention of Terrorism Act. And very recently also 28 protesters were arrested. Yeah. And the Prime Minister promised we are not going to charge them under Prevention of Terrorism Act. So we'll discuss all these things. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what is a protest? And what is a struggle? Now, a protest means something where a pressure coming to people and showing their anger, displeasure for certain type of activities where a government takes. Now, for example, even today there are petrol, fuel, diesel, queues are there, and gas issue. So people request from the government to supply without any interruption, because they have the public security ordinance even to use those provisions and do it. But still, if it is not smoothly happening, there's an Essential Services Act 1979. Then what the people do, they may come to street and show their displeasure, anger, provocation activities and all. So that is a protest.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about Sri Lanka, Article 14.1, every citizen is entitled to 14A, freedom of speech and expression, including publication.
Right.
So the word protest or struggle is not here. Let me take into the first document, 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was the first universal human rights declaration after the Nazi attack in Germany. What happened?
Yeah.
Millions of Jews were killed thereafter they came up with it. And in that it specifically, recognized and guaranteed right to freedom of expression and publication.
Right.
And the press freedom, including Derana TV. And then the other one is very, very important, 1966 Civil and Political Rights Convention.
CCPR.
Yeah, ICCPR.
ICCPR.
In that, it is specifically extended these rights, freedom of expression, publication, press. So it's an international rights, which was incorporated into Sri Lanka first in 1972, First Republic Constitution, but remedies were not there. But in 1978 Constitution, Article 14.1, every citizen. Now can a foreigner protest in Sri Lanka? According to the literal rule, it's very clear, every citizen. Now can a foreigner or alien come to a protest site and provoke and send the video footings? So that is a little bit questionable one.
Within the current constitution.
Yeah, not only in Sri Lanka.
Right.
Now in Canada I have seen protest, they had given a specific area. In that anyone can go and protest, but they can't block the roads. They can't block the free movement of citizens in Canada.
Right.
And very recently Sri Lankans, within 2 days before, they were in Geneva complex, the big chair place. You can protest. Yeah. But you have seen buses, trains, trams, all were running there.
The usual way of life.
Usual way of life is there. The protest was there. Sri Lanka, there is a big oppression. So they were hanging all these Sri Lankan flags and said, that's fine. That's fine. So they are not disturbing to anyone. Yeah. They went from buses from Italy, Denmark, Sweden and all. But they never went a street parade. So I am telling, everyone has the right to protest. There is no issue. But the problem, 15.7, Article 15.7 say, the exercise and operation of the fundamental rights, which are in Article 13 and 14, there is a big restriction.
Yeah.
What is that? Interest of national security, public order, and protection of public health and other things are there. Yeah. Now I am coming to public order. What is public order? I think the protest was there in Goldface.
Yeah.
And after that the government gave a promised shift to Victoria Park.
Yeah.
They openly said, this is a protest area.
Yeah.
So in that area, if anyone protests peacefully, no one can be arrested.
Right.
I don't know whether it gazetted or not. And the Goldface that was belonged to RD or some urban development authority. Right. Let's say that. Now protest come under the freedom of speech and expression.
Right.
There are a lot of Sri Lankan cases are there. I'll give only one case. This is a fantastic case. This is where Vivian Gunawardena, the leftist female leader, Lanka Samasamaja Party. And at that time, Kolpiti police station OIC Hector Pereira. Very peaceful rally. Not blocking any street. Not blocking transportation. One by one, they want to pass temple trees. And only very few females were there. But not allowed. Okay. And then she was trying to go forcibly. And she was stopped and she was beaten. And in that, there was a fundamental right case. Her freedom of expression was restricted without any legal authority. Or even a court order was not there by the OIC.
Right.
When the fundamental right application came, Justice Atukoral said, every citizen of this country can say, praise the government policies, as well as, if they don't like, there must be a way to say that expression.
Criticize.
And they are criticized.
Yeah.
And therefore she was awarded damages.
Right.
And there are a lot of Supreme Court cases. That means even the protest word is not there because of the Supreme Court
Right.
judgments. It has been duly recognized, but with restrictions.
Right. There, I think you used a word which was the biggest debate in the past few weeks, the word peaceful.
Yes.
And what the word now, I have a number of other questions that I want to ask you, sir, but I think it will be unfair for the discussion if I don't ask you this. What constitutes a peaceful protest? Is that recognized within the law, or is it up to the law enforcers to decide?
Peaceful means you are not undermining others' rights. You are not violating others' rights. You are not allowing to operate others' rights. I'll give a good example. See the Sri Lanka news last week. All these Geneva, near the human right complex, many migrant Sri Lankans, those who are living there, they had a very peaceful protest.
Yeah.
That you mean by a peaceful protest. If anyone asking what is a peaceful protest, I give the best example within few days before, which happened in front of Switzerland, Geneva, and they are not citizens even.
Right.
Now here citizens, Switzerland allowed that. So in front of that, they had their flags, and it is a big garden.
Right.
Not a garden, basically, it was given for the protest site. Next day, Myanmar will come. But it is not harming.
Right.
Then I'll use the second example. When I was there in Geneva 2014, same place, LTT diaspora supporters, they want to go and attack the UNHRC complex.
Right.
Immediately pressure water, and they mix several things. They say they mixed with pepper and give the attack.
Right.
Peaceful protest can be unruly behavior if try to enter a place and try to, damage those things, then it is not a peaceful protest. Right. So peaceful protests are what? Even a good example, Janagosha case, where the cost of living, like today it was accelerating. I was participated for that when I was a university student. We never disturb the people even walking that side. Yeah. We were having our protest outside the pavement near Navagamu Devale. Right. And police didn't like that. Even for that peaceful one, Honorable former President Mahinda Rajapaksa was leading that, and we were all attacked. Right. And thereafter we went for at that time, fundamental right case, and that was one, Janagosha. Because they were not disturbing anyone walking towards that platform. And also buses, no issue. But it was a signal for that government. People were looking when they were passing that, oh, there's a big protest. So protest is what? Peaceful means not violating others' rights, freedom of movement, and also not violating any property.
Right.
Now, 1 minute. Yeah. This can be go to a revolution like Cuba. Yes.
And many other.
They go and attack. Yeah. And recently you saw Iraq parliament also forcibly. So there can be several things. Then it is not a protest. Then it can go for a struggle once again for revolution. So it's up to the movement to decide. But when you come to the eyes of the law, this is where I mean any country, even international law, even ICCPR, it's not an absolute right.
Right.
So right to life is absolute right, and also freedom of torch absolute right. Freedom of speech is not an absolute right, even international law or even in Sri Lanka law.
I think you have given us a lot to think about and a lot of clarity also. Doctor, we'll take a very short break. You're watching Law, Line and Liberty. Stay with us.
name is Tatiana DeFontaine and I am an entrepreneur. My question is on the role of the police. What are the legally identified duties of law enforcement during a protest?
Welcome back to Law, Land and Liberty. We are in conversation with Dr. Prathiba Mahanamahewa. Doctor, very interesting first segment that we passed and a lot of clarity that we got from that segment. Next, the segment we have really categorized into the role of the police. Now it's again a sensitive area that has been debated within the public forum for quite some time. And the question then lies with this segment, and then for the final segment I want to take the issue of where the courts can intervene and allow for protest. But before that, the police has a certain duty, a certain responsibility given to them. Where are they allowed to intervene? What are the provisions that are allowed for the police to come in and draw the line between protecting both parties' rights, as in the general public on one side and the right of the protesters on the other side? It's a tough, very, very thin line. Yeah.
This is not only in Sri Lanka, even in Jamaica I have seen there is a police commissioner in Jamaica. Sri Lanka also we have a national police commission because they actually monitor from constable to DIG, what they do. So remember that. Sometimes our citizens ignore that there is a national police commission. I have not heard. Even the National Police Commission, by their own, they can conduct an investigation for the last, what happened if rights were violated, but they should come. It's an independent one. So what I mean, the police actually protecting people, their life, their property. That is their mandate. As a lecturer, police academy and other police courses, we all taught them that discipline is very important. So they must maintain law and order. Even Honorable President, thereafter Minister is there, National Security, and then IGP from there, all these policy decisions are coming. Now police, if inactive, what happened? In 1978, after the election, police were given 2 days holidays. They damaged all properties. I can remember Arjun Ranatunga, our cricketer, their house in Ibulgoda was fully damaged. No one was there to protect. So now you can see, if police not there, what happened? Even this time I have seen in some parliament members there, in front of that house, police is there, but people,
over 80 houses. Yeah.
So why the police were inactive? Whether the orders were given, whether they were scared to come up, and also whether they try to stop this, then the fundamental rights cases may file against them because lawyers are there.
Yeah.
So we have to think that also. A policeman like you and me, their mentality is very important. They have a family. That family also suffering with cost of living. That you have to remember. But the duty is first. So therefore the police ordinance there. So the police, what they should do, they provide a space for the transportation, a space for others to walk without any disturbance, and also give a space to, have their demonstrations, a protest, even put up posters, even slogans for or against the government. Once again I say, against the government. Government should go. Yes, that's a slogan. So saying these slogans, police should not get antagonization or should not get provocation and go and hit them. Sometimes back I know the IGP 2014 gave, you should not go for this protest with weapons. In Sinhala, they call Pati Ayudha. I think Honorable IGP Lanka period. I was the Human Rights Commission. But like that, so they go and they should, explain to the people how to do this protest. And even I know one protest which was there in Talawakele at that time, SP Sujit Wedamulla, he never disturbed. He never took any weapon. He went and gave tea and biscuits for the protesters also. And the protesters didn't like that. Why, sir, you are not arresting? when you arrest only, it goes to the media internationally. So therefore, they want to come and,
Have a fight.
Have a fight. Then only this is a heated one. Otherwise, just having a protest near the Lipton town, no one is looking there. Then it is, heated.
Yeah.
No, we also have our duties. Police also have their duties. But police, under any circumstances, should not beat or torture people. That is a well recognized and well accepted, because 1994, torture convention is an act in Sri Lanka.
Right.
And therefore, any police officer had done this, they can be charged in high courts. So likewise, police main duty is to protect public, that means public property, individual property, and the security for the nation.
Right.
So this is where, very sad today, sometimes whether the independency is a problem. So every day you can see shooting problems now.
Yeah.
So the weapons are there. So my argument, police should very closely monitor them and collect all these illegal weapons to stop any type of criminal activities. So the police ordinance clearly explain. I am not a police officer, so therefore I am not going to explain their duty.
Yeah.
But I look with the citizen's angle. Yeah. Now even if any type of crime happens, where you go and complain? To your nearest police. And they are the legal authority to conduct all this investigation and arrest the suspect, not to torture, produce before them, magistrate court. So that is everywhere. International police also, there are other countries it is happening. So sometimes when person go to the police, if they are not taking the complaint, that is biased, then you can go and complain to Human Rights Commission and other places are there. But police also having an issue. If 500 people coming to a police station, only the OIC and sub-inspector is there to take down the complaint. How can they do it? You can't. If I am not wrong, there are 89,000 policemen in the country. So how can they control all these things? So we also have a duty as citizens to provide the information. But people little bit scared to give the information, because once they go to court, their time and all, and they don't want to come as witnesses most of the time. So we have to prepare a culture. Yeah. That culture very important. The relationship between police and lawyers, police and citizens. If this can be built very soon, lawyers and the police, they are duty bound. We are all professionals. Yeah. So we have to talk about little bit. The organizations having a great duty. And the police should give access to lawyers to come and discuss all these things. And there are committees appointed. This must come with the parliament level. Earlier there was a minister in charge of police. I think now it is come. Still a minister is there. So there should be a good forum to be built up. Right. These are your duties. These are our duties. And lawyers also should, promote and protect the rights of the people. They have a peaceful protest. Yes, no one could attack. But if you try to block many things, if you try to block others, this is just waste. Now I saw one protest was coming. People were there in a queue for more than 3 hours. But we should think, if this petrol gone, where I can? Queue are only giving 20 liters. So I have to waste more than 5 to 6 liters there. Why we are not thinking that? So government obligation to give a place for protest like Canada, Australia, Switzerland, Sweden, I can give many places. I have visited those places. But in Nepal it's like that. Immediately they come, railway strike, and then what can you do? No railways in Nepal, but they block. Mao guerrillas. But finally these Mao guerrillas lay down their arms, and now they are in the democratic process. So therefore sudden strikes, then who should come forward and protect their rights? Colombo Fort Station, fight going with the railway station master, we are on strike, people try to come and hit the property, damage the property, hit the railway station master, then the police should come. there can be a murder.
Right.
So you have to look not only one side of protest. Police do many things. Environment, election period, as well as looking for these perpetrators. All these things they must do it.
Right.
And also finally they are the prosecuting officers in magistrate courts. So don't limit this only to a protest. They are doing a wide variety of services to this country. If no police, what will happen? Somalia, Nigeria, Haiti, many countries are there.
A state of anarchy would...
State of anarchy.
Yeah, that's true. Professor, a lot of important details there and a number of questions that I have to ask you, but we have to take a very short break. We'll go in for the break and we'll come back and talk a bit about the Prevention of Terrorism Act, which really ties up well with this segment. You're watching Law, Line and Liberty. Stay with us.
My name is Katya and I'm a research assistant. My question is on the PTA. Is the right to protest affected by the Prevention of Terrorism Act?
Welcome back to Law, Land and Liberty. We are in conversation with Dr. Prathiba Mahanamahewa. Doctor, this segment we wanted to separate to Prevention of Terrorism now, Prevention of Terrorism Act specifically within our country. Now, obviously, we won't be able to finish all parts of it within one entire segment or within one entire program. But the Prevention of Terrorism Act has been coming under a lot of criticism for a very long period of time, and I believe when you were the Human Rights Commissioner also, this was something that you have had to face. The arrests that take place under the PTA and how that affects protesting within a country, and whether that can anyway be allowed in any circumstance. What are your thoughts on that?
Now, my personal view, any protester should not be charged under Prevention of Terrorism Temporary Provision Act.
Right.
So this is 1979 Act number 48, but it was amended 2022. Now the protesters are actually coming up with anti-slogans against the government.
Yeah.
So without any proper evidence, proper investigations are going up. But it may be not for the protest, maybe for some type of damaging public property, and whether there was a illegal coup to overthrow the government. Likewise, we have to see both sides.
Yeah.
So if you have strong evidence only, you can go against that. But now the Prime Minister is saying they are not going to charge. That means protesters' basic government policy should not be charged under this.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Doctor. If you can explain to us, the provisions are there in place to arrest so that there can be a collection of evidence. Is that something that's allowed?
Now see the definition of terrorism.
Yeah.
What do you mean by terrorism? Still we have 1979 Act number 48, which was fully basic major changes came in 2022. Yeah. So under terrorism, illegally, unauthorizedly, a democratically established government, if you try to overthrow, and killing and forcibly entrance to a place and take them as a hostage, and killing police, army, navy, damaging them, and likewise robberies. Not only that, financing terrorists also one type of offense. So there is a set of offences given. So it should be come under terrorism.
Yeah.
But 2021 Switzerland Anti-Terrorism Act, it's a broader definition given, and it is there. Political activities also they can arrest in certain cases. But in Sri Lanka, if you are going to arrest terrorists, now this is very famous now in the Elam when they try to come up with the LTT terrorist period, we know how they bombed and how they killed. Yeah. These are all terrorist activities. Yeah. So even sometimes they can plant he's a terrorist. That's the biggest issue. Yeah. So political opponents like Mr. Vijay Kumar Tunga, he was arrested, Naxalite movement was there, but no evidence. Right. So a government should not use this to, against democratically, peacefully, if they are going in a protest. Now the major issue in this Prevention of Terrorism Act, arrest, detention and the confession. These are three major areas where we have to see. Now, under the normal law, if present penal code and the criminal procedure code, a person can be kept 24 hours thereafter. If you have finished the investigation or not, you have to produce before a magistrate. And certain offences you can take 48 hours. But under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, if a suspect arrested, you can keep 72 hours. Right. This is the major issue. But if you see year 2006, in United Kingdom, Anti-Terrorism Act, they will keep only lesser hours than that. Right. And after questioning, the DO can be given by the Minister of Defense, the Secretary can. Right. So that DO goes to 90 days. Right. That 90 days, that suspect may be kept in a detention center or a police station or any other place prescribed by the Act, and he can be questioned. And this can be extended to, 18 months also. That is under 1917. But under 2022, there are significant changes came up. Even most of the countries, even Human Rights Council, they were really like that. Yeah. So 2022, what happened? The amendments, you can be kept a suspect maximum 1 year. Right. And also, when a suspect arrested, within 48 hours, the closest magistrate court, you have to inform. Right. And the magistrate can visit and, question and ask certain information. And not only magistrate, within 48 hours you have to inform Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission, and the commission can send officers to go and investigate. So that procedure is there. Why? To stop torture, inhuman, degrading punishments. Right. So likewise, if the suspect saying to the magistrate to change the place, the magistrate can give order. Right. That is a great thing. And also JMO, once again if telling, it's a duty of the magistrate. Monthly you have to go and visit. But I mean not monthly, at least if you can time to time visit, most of these fundamental right violations may be actually minimized, or no fundamental right violation. So a lawyer can be accessed, and also the family members, they can access them. But earlier those things were not there. The only thing I don't like, even the 2022 amendment, which is where a confession, if the suspect give a confession to a police officer above the rank, ASP or above the rank, it can be admitted against him. Right. So that is actually not really independent one, but that has to be changed. Okay. And also when you compare other countries, you can just, not to detain 90 days, 14 days, with the judicial scrutiny, you can extend that period. So certain amendments still needed. That's why we are talking about a new National Security Act. So I call Anti-Terrorism Act, Prevention of Terrorism Act, or National Security Act, or a Patriotic Act. All these things are like there to protect a country, yes, against terrorism. Yeah. You can't say what time a terrorism will come up. Now in Chennai police and India, they have said once again LTT suspects or LTT, cadres, they are regrouping once again. If suddenly if that is coming. In 2005, the London riots came up. So then people said, no, keep them 90 days and question them. So these are some of the issues, right? So arrest, detention, investigation, questioning and confession, you have to see properly whether their fundamental rights are violated. Right. Now the biggest issue, whether 1979 Prevention of Terrorism Act, which is above the Constitution. No. The Constitution, article, basically from 10 to 14, all the rights are protected. But there's another one I won't tell. Right to life is not there in our Constitution. Yes. Even the right to life is not in our Constitution. There was a case decided in 2003, that is Sriani De Silva versus OIC Payagala. In that case, if a suspect taken to arbitrary arrest and torture and other things happen, right to life guaranteed. So likewise, if any person arrested under Prevention of Terrorism Act, he also having right to life now. Even which is not there in the Constitution, indirectly it is there because he is kept under the police, detention center.
I think moving away from our general topic for a while, Doctor, from your vast experience on this field and your assessment of our PTA as of now, after the amendments, is it still that draconian sort of legislature that we have? Because what our understanding is, my personal understanding is other countries, and as you also mentioned, go far ahead in terms of how they legislate against terrorism. In this country, is there a stifling of freedoms through the PTA? Is that something that you have observed?
Danindu, actually with the 22 amendment, try to give some liberty. But it is still not visible. That's my issue. Right. Because tomorrow the terrorism is not coming with arms or weapons or AK-46 or T-56. Cyber terrorism.
They're different now.
We don't have. Because we have a 2007 Computer Crime Act, but basically cyber terrorism. Transnational terrorism can come up.
Yeah.
The drone attacks are there. Different type, new technology they can use.
Yeah.
So they hide to technology, and when they do terrorism like Estonia was the first country, central bank websites attacked, all these electricity department, everything attacked. Yeah. The country was, black for 2 or 3 days. That is the terrorism. Yeah. So likewise, they are damaging now. Online terrorism can come up.
Yeah.
Not like this protest and all. So basically, I understand not to arrest anyone under these protests, and government also guarantee that right because of the Human Rights Council sessions are coming. Definitely, they will come up with another recommendation.
Yeah.
So what you ask, most of the time, it may not happen in Switzerland. Right. Because Switzerland, if a protest happen, their citizens or others, migrated citizens, may not come to street and block the roads. So that's why I'm telling. Yeah. You have all the liberty and discipline in USA, or you can have in Canada or in Switzerland. That is the basic place for protecting fundamental rights. But USA also, after this Florid killing by police, they came to street. Yeah, tear gas used. And pressure water and everything, they use that. So likewise in Sri Lanka also, government also try to, whatever the people, reasonable demands must be made. So then most of the things may calm down. So the liberty is there, but under the PTA Act, previous cases if you study, I have no time to tell, there are a lot of cases are coming up, and also the emergency regulations are not there at the moment. So even PTA should be changed, and also fundamental rights of the people must be protected with that. Without proper concrete evidence, a person should not arrest, then his right to freedom, liberty, everything violated if an innocent person arrested.
Right. So just tying up with our previous segment and this, now the PTA, again a complex document. As you firstly mentioned, we can't expect a police officer to have this unthinkable amount of knowledge when they're acting on the field. They have to make split-second decisions in those times. When an arrest is made under the PTA, or when arrest is or detention is made, I think this will tie into our next segment as well. We see that police officers would go to courts to sometimes block a protest, and then there will be that conversation with the courts whether it should be allowed or not. One clarification I wanted you from that, maybe we can even talk about that in the second segment. But an arrest that is made under the PTA, who makes that call? Is it the police officer on the ground, or once a detention or arrest is made arbitrarily, later on you decide on which counts this specific arrest was made?
Arbitrary you can't arrest, but if you have reasonable suspicion also, it is there in the criminal procedure code. Now before that, I want to say, even police try to control or disperse a mass protest, what you should do, minimum force. These protesters sometimes not coming with weapons, and the police, they have all the weapons and they have been given the training how to control. So you must use the minimum force. Sometimes, I'll give a good example, in front of the parliament, former Maharagama OIC, he went without any weapon and he lost 2 fingers. Now he's a disabled person. He never beaten anyone, but the rally tribe. And we saw 2 or 3 army officers also say, if that happened, then the police must protect other people's rights and they are doing a duty. And the other one is very important, where how do you know these rallies are coming or not? So suddenly the railway strike can come, bus strike can come, rallies can come. That's why we have an intelligence unit. This intelligence unit, Sri Lanka Army, Navy, Air Force and Police also having, so they gather that. Then the Security Council also there. Now my argument is this, if police got to know first information, then there is a, first they can go and request from the police to use this, loudspeakers and other things. They may not allow it, then you can go to courts and ask for that even. Now what police do, even sudden strikes, a sudden protest or struggle coming, they go and, request from the magistrate courts to give an order to stop this. It can be violent, it can be criminal trespass to government buildings, blah, blah, like that. Now in that case, normally magistrates are also respecting fundamental freedom which is guaranteed in the Constitution. Freedom of expression, Article 14(1)(e), freedom from application, freedom from protest, which has been expanded. So most of the time I have seen the magistrate courts, the magistrates give their order. Peaceful protest, yes, police must allow. But if they try to forcibly enter or disturb others or enter into a building unauthorizedly, then the police ordinance is there. Under the police ordinance and the criminal procedure code, they may use that. So some magistrate courts, they give, yes, if you have strong evidence, and you do it. And thereafter, when the magistrate give the order not to enter this road, you have to go with other road, then the police person will come and read that. But even the protesters are not allowing to read that. He will be chased away. That also violation. So therefore then you have to say in TV and social media, you can't do it. It's a government one. Even I saw one protest in northern province, when they are going, the police officer running behind the protesters and reading, not to do it, this is a contempt of court. No, they don't care it. Thereafter they have been arrested and do it. So therefore, most of the time, even the legal luminaries, legal professionals, even in, not in Sri Lanka, in other countries also, what they do, they look with this protest, can it lead to a violation of other people's rights, Danidu, or even forcibly entering and damaging the property. Now we have seen forcibly enter into 2 places in Sri Lanka and damage that property. That is actually illegal. Anyone should not promote that. You have to actually criticize those type of things. So not only in Sri Lanka, I am telling, in Asian countries, now even in USA, the Capitol building.
There's a hearing now.
The hearing now, no. The first person who entered that 7 years rigorous punishment was given. So those are not under Patriotic Act. Now after 9/11, I want to tell you, immediately after 9/11 incident, they passed a resolution in the Security Council 1793. In that, most of the countries, they are passing laws against terrorism. But the only issue in Asian countries, will this Prevention of Terrorism Act can use to silence or to arrest their political opponents. That is the major issue.
Civil protest.
Civil protest.
So a lot more to discuss, but we'll take a very short break. You're watching Lawline and Liberty. Stay with us on this as we go into our last segment and get a briefing on how all of this ties together.
Hi, my name is Shihara Ferdinando and I'm an economics major at the Faculty of Arts, University of Colombo. So my question to you is with regard to court action. What are the remedies that are in place in courts to either prevent or control protest or showing of dissent in Sri Lanka?
Welcome back to Law, Land and Liberty. We are in our last segment. Doctor, I think a lot of important things and a lot of clarity that has been given. I wish a lot of people would watch the program and really understand those nuances that you explained to us today. Our last segment I want to take on, now there is court action. I think that's where we stopped in the previous segment. Court sometimes gives an order in order to say, okay, these are the boundaries, this is where you all can't go ahead from, and that happens. But there are the chances where that doesn't happen, where the court says, okay, no, in this instance we will not be intervening. So both of those instances again was debated in the public array. Why didn't the court involve themselves? They could have saved lives, maybe they could have done so and so. What is your reading on that? Does the judiciary also have some form of responsibility in this scenario, or is it purely up to the law enforcement, because the judiciary doesn't have the kind of intelligence as we were talking about that law enforcement would have?
Now, judiciary in any country, there are 54 Commonwealth countries. All these 54 countries, we have common law. That is where the common law protects the rights of the people, fundamental rights.
Yeah.
So judiciary, when a case are coming, interpretation, even from UK Supreme Court to down, they are duty bound to protect the rights of the citizens, fundamental rights.
Right.
So in that case, we always respect. Now in UK 1999 Human Rights Bill. We don't have a Human Rights Bill, we have only this.
Yeah.
So therefore my argument, more and more, even provincial high courts, this jurisdiction should be given. Otherwise a person should come from all the West Northern Province to hear the case and no West Western. Likewise, you should take down to another step level.
Yeah.
So the judiciary, basically independence of judiciary in our 1978 constitution within that parameters.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a judicial review power like Jamaica or in USA or India. Yeah. So therefore we are all going with the UK structure at the moment, judicial precedent. So that is. But another thing, where magistrates visit prisons,
right,
like Detention Order 2022, Prevention of Terrorism Act, I explained the amendment. Yeah. So that is another thing where they have access to that. And always, some allegations were made by a parliamentarian, what they give to it and all, right? Yeah. So I don't know which is correct, but the magistrate normally visit prisons. Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission officials, when we were there, we visited. Right. So a lot of monitoring can happen. Yeah. If a person saying a statement, we should not believe 100%, we have to take that forward.
Yeah.
And also at the moment, country is the first. That is very important. So at least when a new government had given a pledge, they are coming up with a new National Security Act. In that National Security Act, we must think about the latest technological attacks, latest development which is happening in other countries, and at least must reconsider detain a person for 90 days and extend for 1 year. Should be little bit relaxation should be given, and with the court or scrutiny or judiciary scrutiny, it can be basically think like that. So 2 countries I am making, Switzerland very recent one, and UK 2006 one, and the Patriotic Act. So all these if you put into a lineup, number 1, we have to protect the state, and innocent people should not be arrested. But still you have to remember Guantanamo Bay, torture house is still there, whatever we see. So that is their international transit system. Sri Lanka, we know East attack and all, but I'm not going to discuss the courts, commissions are there. Yeah. And also we have to see there were another thing where the innocent protesters were attacked one night by the army. That also they have appointed, the government has appointed a commission. Yeah. So finally we all work to one. Yeah. Even police or army, navy or citizen like us, we have a duty. What is our duty? One thing, to develop this country, to support and also fight for our reasonable rights. Those rights are there in the constitution, and my argument is negotiation. The best country is Norway, Scandinavian countries. They all negotiate. For that, media institution like you all must do a good job, because they come forward. The best constitution I ever seen recently, 1996, South African constitution, after Nelson Mandela, all the rights were protected. So Sri Lanka, still economic rights were not protected, social rights as well as cultural rights. So we will set up a culture in this country, every citizen, including the forces, promote, protect, respect fundamental human rights. Then we can have a, within
a good country, country to look forward to. Doctor, as usual, time has come against us, and I believe there's a lot more we can speak to you maybe throughout the entire day about this very specific topic itself. But thank you so much for the clarity that you have given to us. Dr. Prathiba Mahanamahewa, the rector of the Sri Pali campus, University of Colombo. He was the former Human Rights Commissioner within our country and has been pretty much active in educating young lawyers and the general public within this field for quite some time. Thank you once again, sir, for joining us. All right. The exercise of the right to protest should be primarily motivated by what is best for the country and not a self-serving agenda. Malaysia's former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad explained this quite well when describing an incident where in 1987, under the Internal Security Act, multiple rioters had to be detained for their behavior. He concisely mentioned that, quote, the issue was not political opposition to the government, but the threat to national security. I don't expect this explanation would be accepted by my detractors, but that is normal. Detractors would never admit to being wrong. That is all from us here at Law, Land and Liberty. If you had missed today's program, you can rewatch the entire episode on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Derana English. Join us again next week as we break down a contemporary legal topic. I'm Danidil Tanwasa. Have a great night.